Joe Biden announced yesterday that we're closer than we've been in decades to nuclear annihilation. He said this at a Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee fundraiser, the sort of thing that you do. He said it was the first time since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis that there has been a, quote, direct threat of nuclear weapons being used, quote, if in fact things continue down the path they are going. I assume there that he's referencing Kanye West's recent comments, or maybe something about Ukraine and Russia, I'm not sure. Anyway, Putin during his big speech recently did talk about the possibility of using nuclear weapons, referencing the fact that the United States has done it in the past and implying that that sets a precedent despite the fact that it was the better part of a century ago. Anyway, he said, if the territorial integrity of our country is threatened, we will certainly use all the means at our disposal to protect Russia and our people. I'm not bluffing. Now, apparently, Joe Biden does not believe that Putin is bluffing either. He says, we've got a guy I know fairly well. He's not joking when he talks about potential use of tactical nuclear weapons or biological or chemical weapons, because his military is, you might say, significantly underperforming. I don't think there's any such thing as the ability to easily use a tactical nuclear weapon and not end up with Armageddon. And so he sort of concludes that train of thought saying, we're trying to figure out what is Putin's off-ramp. Where does he find a way out? Where does he find himself when where he does not only lose face, but significant power? And look, Biden is hardly the first person in recent weeks or even months to talk about the possibility of nuclear weapons being used. But of course, when the president does it, it becomes a significantly more significant thing. And although almost immediately after these comments, press secretary says that we're not changing our readiness or anything, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Joe Biden did say it wasn't a hot mic, it was part of his prepared remarks, so what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a story that's not getting enough attention. So a lot of people in the establishment believe certain things, even though they have no evidence for them. So for example, there's no way Donald Trump can win, except he did. He won in 2016 and they were dumbfounded. They shouldn't have been dumbfounded. The polls showed a close race. A race that he was an underdog in, but winnable. In the Republican primaries, he was the favorite from day one to the end. And the entire time they're like, no, I do like Marco Rubio. Everybody knows that, Marco Rubio or Jeb Bush, right? So people like to deny reality because it makes them uncomfortable. And so everybody thinks, oh yeah, Putin keeps saying that he's gonna use nukes, but of course he's not going to. No, you're projecting your rationality onto him. He just invaded Ukraine with the most half-assed plan you've ever seen. Does the guy look overly rational to you? So sometimes Putin seems to consolidate power in a way that shows intelligence, right? And other times he does really dumb things, sometimes emotional things, because a lot of the right wing, remember, are based on emotions. So they're fearful, they want to show strength, they want to look like alphas. They do ridiculous things to do those emotional, to satiate their emotions, let's put it that way, right? So Putin is a guy who just did something terrible and has poisoned tons of people in his own country, done fake elections, you go on and on, right? So the idea that there's no chance he would use nukes when he says he would use nukes is not correct. There is a certain percentage chance that he will use them. Now, if the number is 28%, holy cow, oh no, that's about the percentage chance that Trump had of winning in 2016, right? So we're all whistling past the graveyard if that's the case. If it's 4%, it's a disaster. We're taking a 4% chance that the entire planet is wiped out, right? So this is a massive story. Honestly, we haven't covered it enough. And so what I don't know is how much the news coverage will affect whether he does it or not. But still, it's our job at news to talk about what the big important stories are. And this is a giant important story. So one of the reasons that most of the media didn't talk about it is because our side hasn't been talking about it. Like our reporters just wait for permission from people in power. They're like, maybe we talk about it? No, not yet. Okay. Now that Biden has said it to, of course, the most important people in the country, donors, now it's real because he tells them things that are way more real than he says in public, right? Like nothing will fundamentally change. By the way, he was giving this event at Murdoch's house. Not Rupert Murdoch, James Murdoch, but yes, Rupert Murdoch's son, Okay, he's supposed to be the more liberal son, right? So he's going to tell the Murdochs and everyone else, oh, by the way, we might all die. And he thinks that Putin is serious about the nukes, but we're not going to share that with the public, and we're going to poo-poo it, etc. And then people will not write much about it. Well, the reality is, it is a certain percentage chance, and that is very, very frightening. Rayvon.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's deeply concerning to hear the President Joe Biden say that we are closer to Armageddon than we have been since the Cuban Missile Crisis. But also last week, Joe Biden said that he was raised by the Puerto Rican community. So I'm hoping that this statement is a little bit closer to that type of, exaggerating, a little bit fabricated statement, a corn pop statement, if you will, of Joe Biden's than one that's, an imminent threat to everyone in the world. But like you were noting, the media downplayed the chance that Trump had to become president. They also massively downplayed, the chance that Putin was going to invade Ukraine in the first place. And now we have, these national security experts, these foreign policy experts saying that, it's not, it seems more that Putin's been backed into a corner, and the chances of him using nuclear weapons hasn't necessarily increased from yesterday to today, but his position has worsened. So this is more of a threat, an empty threat than anything. But I mean, those same experts were saying he was never going to invade Ukraine because he didn't stand to necessarily gain anything geopolitically in that moment, and he still did it. So how much can we trust these experts? I don't know, but it's definitely a concerning time, and especially to hear these words from the President of the United States, it definitely puts them, in a different level of importance than otherwise.
Yeah, I just want to pick up real quick on two things that Rayvon has said. One is, and we talked about this on a previous show, but like the Cuban Missile Crisis just stopped the world. Everybody was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Are we all gonna die? This is arguably a more direct threat than the Cuban Missile Crisis, because one of the people involved, one of the sides involved is saying, no, I'm definitely gonna do it if you guys cross our new so-called border. And the Ukrainians are crossing it every day. I mean, they're regaining territory in the 4 areas that Russia had the fake elections in. And he's like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And everybody's like, yeah, no big deal, yeah. No, big deal, giant deal, right? I don't know what the right reaction to that is, and that is the most important question. But at least we should be cognizant of the actual threat, right? And to be fair, guys, like I thought that Putin was bluffing about going into Ukraine. I was wrong about that. So now, unlike the mainstream media, I don't then go, oh, I'm wrong, I should be promoted. Like they never get anything wrong, and they constantly get promoted, right? They never get anything right. I mean, so but I was wrong because I thought Putin is relatively intelligent, and that's a deeply irrational move. Well, if I was wrong about that, and he's willing to do deeply irrational moves, are we positive he's not going to use the nukes?
Yeah, well, and let's be clear, you can be wrong about whether a thing will happen or not, and still be kind of proven right in why you were wrong. It was irrational. It was a very bad call. It was actually way worse of a call than we thought it would be, because we were giving his military, as most seem to be, way too much credit. I agree that the line is being crossed, as you say. They're crossing that line that he referenced, and it's weird that people aren't taking it more seriously. I mean, these Ukrainian troops are now attempting to invade these regions that just voted to join Russia in totally fair elections. They wanted it. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's fair, but I can't say that it's not. Nobody can say, who's to say if it's democracy or not? I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I think Putin's got some good points. Anyway,
that's our correspondent from Gray Zone, of course.
Jeez, don't pull me in your stuff. Anyway, yeah, no, I am worried too. We'll see, but we have referenced the status on the ground. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on. This week, troops that had been stationed in the capital in Kyiv were pushing forward in the country's east and south, threatening a major new breakthrough and forcing Putin soldiers to retreat from territory that was literally just annexed. I mean, these regions, so turbulent in these regions. And bear in mind, by the way, in all these updates, that we can trust to some extent what is being said here, but it is still being filtered through propaganda. We might feel more favorably towards this particular state and their propaganda apparatus, but still grains of salt. In any event, because the Russians have done their tactical retreat in the form of turning around and running literally as fast as they can, they've left behind a lot of equipment. And in fact, Ukraine, which had been facing shortfalls, especially certain types of artillery ammunition, they're saying now they've recovered more than enough. They put out this really mocking tweet saying Russia is trying to maintain its status as the largest supplier of military equipment for the Ukrainian army, and even to improve its status, knowing that Lend-Lease will soon come into effect. Hugh Army loves its trophy ammo. So anyway, they say that they've gotten artillery and tanks and ammunition, and they immediately turned that stuff around and began using it on the retreating Russian troops. My advice, by the way, and again, I'm not an expert. I didn't think that they would invade, so what the hell do I know? But I'm reminded of, I'm gonna make a very recent pop culture reference. And it's in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And at one point, there's this vicious rabbit. And so they retreat and they're looking for a plan. What do we do? And one of them says, perhaps it would confuse it if we were to retreat again. So my advice to the Russian troops would be, just keep retreating. Honestly, just keep retreating over the border. And I know what you're thinking. No, but Putin can't go back, tail between his legs. Do you know how good he is at propaganda inside of Russia? Just say, what I have done is I have challenged this international alliance of these a-holes, including the US. And there's so many of them that I was not going to send more of our people to needlessly die. What we're gonna do is we're gonna rebuild our strength here inside of the motherland, and then someday we will challenge, whatever, I don't know, Putin, come up with your own thing. But I think that that is obviously the best call. They're going to lose tens of thousands of additional troops, and what possible benefit could it bring to any regular person in Russia? Maybe some ephemeral sense of glory for Putin. It has not been going that way. So just get the hell out of there, honestly, and we can move on with all of our lives.
Yeah, no, I'm just worried to death that they're gonna actually use the nukes. And then, of course, then the next question is, do we retaliate? So these are dark times, and I hate to depress you, and usually I'm the guy with all the hope, but we should do a little bit of buckling up just in case, because Putin is not a stable person, and he just proved it in Ukraine. So when you've got a guy who's a little bit unhinged, to say the least, threatening to use nuclear weapons, we should brace for impact a little bit.
Yeah, literally.